Aisha reports, "We had a pigeon in our house. When God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, was at home, it would stay quiet. As soon as he left, it would continually pace to and fro." Anas ibn Malik relates, "God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, was the most generous and courageous person. One night, the people of Medina heard some voices, and set out in fear to investigate. On their way, they saw a man coming toward them, who appeared to be God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings. He said to them, 'There is nothing to be distressed about.' He had mounted Abu Talha's horse and investigated the matter before anybody else. He turned to Abu Talha and said, 'I found your horse fast and comfortable,' whereas it had been very slow before that event. After that night, no other horse could race against it." According to many accounts in the books of traditions, he used inanimate objects while performing his miracles. Jabir ibn Samura reports, "God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, once said, 'Prior to my prophethood, a rock in Mecca used to greet me. I still recognize it.' Abd Allah ibn Masud reports, "We could hear food glorifying God while we were eating with God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings." Traditionists unanimously report from Anas, Abu Huraira, Uthman, and Sa'id ibn Zayd, who said, "God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, climbed up Mount Uhud with Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman. The mountain, either in awe or because of its joy, trembled. He said, 'Be still, O Uhud, for on you is a prophet, a truthful one, and 2 martyrs.'" Thus did the messenger predict the martyrdom of Umar and Uthman. It is established through authentic narrations from Ali, Jabir, and Aisha that rocks and mountains would greet God's messenger, saying, "Peace be upon you, O messenger of God." Ali says, "Whenever we walked in the suburbs of Mecca in the early times of his prophethood, trees and rocks would say, 'Peace be upon you, O messenger of God.'" The prophet's protection was itself a miracle. As related through various channels, during the military campaigns of Ghatfan and Anmar, a courageous chief named Gauras unexpectedly appeared at the side of God's messenger, who was lying under a tree. Unsheathing his sword, he asked God's messenger, "Who will save you from me now?" "God will," the messenger replied. Then he prayed, "O God, protect me from him as you will." At that moment, Gauras was knocked down, and his sword slipped from his hand. God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, took the sword and asked him, "Now, who will save you from me?" Gauras began to tremble and entreated God's messenger to spare his life. "You are a noble, forgiving one. Only forgiveness is expected of you," he pleaded. God's messenger forgave him, and when Gauras returned to his tribe, he said to them, "I have just come from the best of humanity." Abu Huraira relates, Abu Jahl once asked those near him, "Does Muhammad still rub his face against earth, that is, make prostration?" "Yes, he does," they answered. Abu Jahl added, "By Lat and Uzza, if I see him doing that again, I will tread on his neck or bury his face with soil." A short while later, God's messenger came and began to pray. While he was prostrating, Abu Jahl approached him, but suddenly turned back in fear and amazement, trying to protect himself with his hands. When asked why he had done so, he answered, "Truly, between him and me is a trench filled with fire, and something horrible, and some wings." God's messenger commented on the event. "If he had approached me, the angels would have torn him to pieces." God promised to guard him against people. "O messenger, make known whatever is revealed unto you from your Lord, for if you do it not, you will not have conveyed his message. God will protect you from people. Surely, God guides not the unbelievers. The acceptance of his prayers is also a miracle, as can be seen in the following accounts. The authorities of tradition, including Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim, all report that the messenger's prayer for rain always was accepted immediately. Sometimes it would begin before he lowered his hands while on the pulpit. Rain clouds would appear when his army ran out of water. Even in his childhood, his grandfather Abd al-Muttalib would go out with him to pray for rain, and rain would come out of God's love for him. Abd al-Muttalib immortalized this in a poem. After the Prophet's death, Umair once invoked the name of Abbas while praying for rain, saying, "O God, this is the uncle of your beloved Prophet. Give us rain for his sake." Thereafter, it rained. Anas ibn Malik reported that one Friday when God's messenger was giving a sermon, a man came into the mosque and said, "O messenger of God, there is drought. Please ask God to send rain." The messenger prayed, and it rained until the next Friday. On that day, while God's messenger was on the pulpit again giving a sermon, a man stood up and said, "O messenger of God, please pray to God to turn the rain from us." The messenger prayed, "O God, send the rain onto the places around us, not onto us." Anas, who reported the event, says, "By God, I saw the clouds scatter and rain fall onto other places, and it stopped raining on the people of Medina." Abdallah ibn Umair relates, "When there were about 40 companions, God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, prayed, 'O God, strengthen Islam with which of those two, namely Umar ibn al-Khattab and Amr ibn al-Hisham, is more pleasing to you.' The next morning, Umar came to the messenger and accepted Islam." Abdullah ibn Abbas reports, "Once when God's messenger went to relieve himself, I carried water to him for wudu. When he came out, he asked who put the water there. 'I did,' I answered. Whereupon he prayed, 'O God, make him profoundly knowledgeable in religion, and teach him the meaning of the Koran.' Based on this prayer, he would be called profound scholar of the Ummah and interpreter of the Koran. When he was still young, Umar put him on his consultative assembly of high-ranking scholars and elders of the companions." Anas ibn Malik relates, "My mother took me to God's messenger and said, 'O messenger of God, this is my son Anas. Let him serve you. Please pray for him.' The messenger prayed, 'O God, give him abundant wealth and offspring.' Anas remarked in his old age, swearing by God, 'You see the abundance of my wealth, and my children and grandchildren number about 100. Abu Huraira once complained to God's messenger about forgetfulness. The messenger told him to spread a piece of cloth on the ground. Then he seemed to fill his hands with invisible things and empty them on the cloth. After repeating this 3 or 4 times, he told Abu Huraira to pick it up. Abu Huraira, as he himself later swore by God, never forgot anything again. This is also among the well-known events related to the companions. In addition, the Prophet met with and spoke to angels and jinn. Umar reports, "We were sitting with God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, when a man appeared beside us. He had dark black hair and was wearing a white robe. There were no signs of traveling upon him. He sat before the messenger and, touching his knees to the messenger's, asked him about faith, Islam, perfection of virtue, Ihsan, and the last day. After the interview, the man left and disappeared. God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, turned to me and asked who that man was. 'God and his messenger know better,' I answered. The messenger concluded, 'He was Gabriel. He came to teach you your religion.'" Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas relates, "At the Battle of Uhud, I saw 2 men, the archangels Gabriel and Michael, dressed in white on either side of God's messenger, fighting for his sake. I had never seen them before, nor have I seen them since. Rifa ibn Rafi reports, Gabriel asked God's messenger his opinion of the companions who participated in the battle of Badr. The messenger answered like this: "We consider them among the most virtuous of Muslims." Gabriel responded, "So do we. We consider the angels who were present there among the most virtuous of angels." In his Musnad, Ahmad ibn Hanbal reports from Abdallah ibn Masud that God's messenger invited jinn to accept Islam and taught them about the Quran. The Prophet also performed miracles related to the appearance of invisible objects and realms. Aisha reports, one day the sun was eclipsed. God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, performed the prayer of eclipse, and then explained, "The sun and the moon are two of God's signs. When you witness an eclipse, pray until it ends. By God, in this place where I have performed the prayer, I saw everything promised to me. When you saw me move forward during the prayer, I did that to take a cluster of grapes that appeared to me from paradise. Again, by God, when you saw me move backward, I did so because I saw hell, roaring with its parts piling one upon another." Abdullah ibn Abbas relates, God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, passed by two graves, and said, "Heed what I will tell you. Those lying in those graves are suffering torments because of two grave sins. One of them used to backbite and slander others everywhere. The other was not careful about guarding himself against urine stains." Even such inanimate objects as trees and sticks testified to his prophethood. Jabir ibn Abdullah reports, "We were walking with God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings. We went down into a wide valley, and the messenger searched for a place to relieve himself. When he could not find one, he went to the two trees he had seen by the valley. He pulled one of them by a branch next to the other tree. The tree was like an obedient camel being pulled by its reins. He addressed them, 'Join together over me by God's permission.' The trees did so and formed a screen." Abdullah ibn Umar reports, God's messenger, upon him be peace and blessings, used to lean against a pole called the date palm trunk when delivering a sermon. When a pulpit was built and the Prophet started giving his sermons from it, the pole moaned because of its separation. The messenger climbed down and stroked it, after which it stopped moaning. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri relates, God's messenger gave Qatada ibn Nu'man a stick on a dark night, saying, "This stick will light up your surroundings as far as 7 meters. When you get home, you will see a black shadow. Without allowing it to tell you anything, strike it with this stick." Qatada did as he was instructed.